So tell me a little bit more about the core. So we talked about dialed in.
Yeah, so April and I really want to start dialed in because we realize just the power of what a virtual assistant can do for you, and the play on cutting the cord. So with her company, especially doing more sales calls and stuff, so like cut the cord on sales. Obviously it shows our age there a little bit because there's no cords now.
All of us,
yeah, exactly. But it was really about, getting yourself out of that day-to-day grind and focusing on the relationships like we were talking about earlier. And that's the whole idea behind it. Help you understand, one, what a virtual assistant can do, but two, what things that you can offload so you can focus on what you want to focus on.
Yeah, it makes complete sense. I know that like for most inspiring entrepreneurs, especially for people that are just like coming into the field, and for those that are seasoned, but they're still juggling it all themselves, right? I know a lot of people, that mindset shift is like letting go of control.
Yeah.
And I think we all experience that even still a little bit today in regards to like, do I want to hand over my financials? Do I want to hand over those day-to-day tasks that, I kind of covet and hold so close to me? But at the end of the day, once you have that shift, it does require a little bit of adjusting, but letting go of some of those day-to-day tasks and empowering some really good, talented people out there in that VA space, it just opens up the doors to so much more that you can do, and serving your clients and really honing in on the things that are considered to be like real income producing activities that move the needle in your business, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I think that it is your baby, and that if it doesn't work, then you're not going to be able to get anywhere in business, and consistency is key. And with all of that being said, it's hard to handle over, and you don't have to start with everything at one time. You can start off small to make sure that you're with like the right company, because there are so many VA services out there, and each one of them are so completely different. Not all VA companies are the same at all. Philip is like really good at the content creation and video and podcast and a ton of other things like photos, I'm sure, just all kinds of things.
Right.
He can do all the things that we do in BidSlot, but he definitely specializes in certain things, just like we specialize in certain things.
Yeah.
And so anyways, if you cannot find the time to do certain tasks, and consistency is key, you do not need someone at like 25 or 40 hours a week. You will save yourself a lot of time and money placing it with an assistant and just working with them to make sure that they got it. Because even though they are a, like VA, and you give them directions, you have to work with them to make it happen. Just like if you hired someone in an office setting. And I think the list goes on. Like I could just keep going.
Yeah, casting the vision. And I'm a creative by nature. Like I'm really good at, of course, I've been in sales for a long time. I've been in operations. So I really understand that aspect of the business. But at the end of the day, I cannot deny, like I'm a creative. So I love heart-centered things, tapping into the identity of individuals, right? People behind the business, right? Their personal brand. And in doing that, I find a lot of times that what was hard for me to hand over business to the VAs was the fact that I'm like, can they really do it as good as I can? And I know that sounds, kind of pompous, but like you said, it's your baby.
Yeah.
And so releasing that is kind of like, do they really understand like the heart of my business and the core of how and what I found, like you said, is to release that little by little.
Not all at one time.
Not all at once,
For sure.
And if you can still maintain the creative piece and cast the vision, but they then, are on board with the tasks that are needed to accomplish that, I'll admit, I'm the first to say I'll surrender to the fact that I'm shocked by how many great VAs are out there, and just the team that can be pulled together in collaboration to serve your needs,
Yeah.
So.
Oh yeah. And it's so funny to me, like you mentioned it right there. Like everybody's like, I want to hire a virtual assistant. They're just going to take over everything. And then like, what happened? They didn't do everything. That like, yeah, but how'd you help them? What'd you coach them on?
Absolutely.
Well, I just gave them the task. Okay. Well, how'd you expect them to do it? Were you available for them to ask questions? No, they took 30 hours and they did one video. Well, why? It's because you just gave it to them, and I say
find it for
delegate
yourself and they
forget.
know nothing
Yeah.
about your
Yeah.
company.
Yeah, exactly.
And I think that that's one thing that can also, set VA companies apart, or people using virtual assistants. You cannot just give them written directions and you figure it out, see you later, bye. This
Yeah.
is your baby, right?
Right.
And you really care about the way that people are treating the baby,
Mm-hmm.
and so why wouldn't you spend the time to train the VA the way they need being
Right.
trained? Because you would not hire someone in an office, give them an 85-page manual, tell them you got this, and then walk out the door and not check on them. But honestly, actually, there are owners that do that.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I think a lot of people struggle with hiring a VA is because the amount of time it is going to take them to train them. Like the people that maybe care a little bit more about the way things are handled, like this is my baby, because some people say it's their baby, but they don't treat it like one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They,
The redheaded stepchild
here you go,
instead.
Let's kind of go back to that. I mean, I'd love to expand with the two of you around this idea of, like you said, planning, setting them up for either success or failure. It's so often when I'm working with clients, when we get even to that point of conversation, the first thing I always ask is like, okay, show me your SOPs. Do you have any kind of standard operating procedures? And when they say no, it's like, oh, well, that's like the first step and being able to even hand over a project. So what do you find even right now? And I know you both do the same thing, where when you're ready to basically marry a VA up with some type of a client and whatever, is then putting the actual procedure on paper, having a written procedure.
What I find is that they're confused about what they even need offload,
Yeah,
what it is that they want to offload.
You have to listen
And-
to them as a
And
salesperson.
I want this. And I was on a sales call
Yeah.
one time, and the guy was like, I want to offload social media, but I want my social media, it's starting to pay me some money. I want it to basically make enough that the VA is paid for. And then as we got talking, he needed like back office needs way more than social media.
Yeah.
But it's they have this idea of what they want, what they think it'll be.
That's
But
a
then
good
as you
point.
dig in, and so I always like say we're doing strategy sessions. This isn't a sales call. This is a strategy session to figure out what is your biggest pain point. How can we get your biggest return on investment right away? That's going to free up your time to do the more money making activity. So that's really where I have to start. And then okay, what systems do you have in place? What processes are you even doing?
Yeah.
Can you do a video for me? At a minimum, do a Loom video. Okay, click here. This is why I did it this way. And at least now you have the SOP. And then pop it into Chat GPT. Boom, there's an SOP. You massage a little bit, and now it's done.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
you
so
let the
give them a
VA
free
do more after
technique,
that. Yeah.
just give them a little bit of advice. And honestly, I would really actually, in that scenario, start with the company,
Mm-hmm.
and then they would keep seeing and hearing different things we did through like emails and stuff like
Yeah.
that. And then it's like cross-selling them as well. So constantly staying in front of, the people that we have brought on as clients, and or any single person you've ever talked to in your whole entire life
Yeah.
goes into your CRM, and then you never let them go until they become a paying client. But by then they're friends.
Yeah, that's true.
That
That's
goes
true.
into
Yeah.
your little
Exactly.
universal branding.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Well, I mean, so let's kind of framework scaling, right? Like scaling that relationship with a VA, with a call center, with some type of an outsourced activity. I always found it's good to find that one small little task. I've heard both of you say this in the past, where it's like find that one little thing that is just something that you just dislike doing every day, right? Just see if there's that one little thing that you can turn over to somebody, and then you start scaling from there. Because in the beginning, it may be just that mundane task. Potentially, I'm not saying that there isn't skilled trait behind it, but just start off with something simple, and then, at least in my experience, I found that as I build that relationship, you'll really understand the level of that, the individual VA and just the VA agency as a whole, right?
Yeah.
Meaning that, well, this person can handle cold calling for you, or maybe this person can do some discovery calls, kind of that first wave, but really it's going to require this person to do some closing on the sales if you want to take it to that level.
And that's a team, because
And that is a
not
team.
one person is
That's
good
right.
at all of that at all. And so it takes different talent. And there's several different ways that you can find talent. We always try to use the free tools versus paid tools for our clients. We were able to use a free chatting tool, for example, in our company for 15 years. But when the Russia stuff happened, it went off the Apple Store.
Yeah.
So we were forced to start using Slack. Slack is a small payment, especially if you're an individual, and it normally gives you like 90 days or 14 days free trial depending on the time of year. But we try to use as many free resources that we can in order to help our clients.
So you're not burdening them with like, you need a subscription to this, and
No.
this.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
That makes sense. Yeah, I think you brought it up earlier, like find out what systems they're already using and try to integrate around it, unless there's a better method, right?
Yeah, but you don't know that till you get in there. So all the time people, like whenever you're signing up a client, they're like, and if you have any suggestions, sometimes we do have some right off the bat based on the sales call that we had, but then other times you have to get in there to see like how they're scheduling, how they're quoting, how they're doing different things, how they're doing all the things, and that takes time. You're not going to know that instantaneous unless it's really obvious. Why are we doing it this way? It takes like 6 minutes longer, so this could take 2 minutes if we do it that way. And giving like the VAs incentives to communicate those things too, it takes a little bit of time, especially if it's like a brand new account.
No, absolutely. That's
a lot of coaching up on that.
Oh,
and then one thing as well, what I like to do is, especially if I'm hiring my first one, like, okay, this is your core function. Your core function is to be on the calls. But you know what? I might have you, well, usually you're probably updating a CRM, but I might have you help me with some social media posting, whether it's posting on it or doing something. But there might be other little things in order to keep you busy, because I want to keep you full time, but I don't necessarily have full time hours for this. So here's some other things that we can also do. So that's something I suggest to clients as well is, hey, have this core function that this is what they do no matter what. But then if you got extra time, pick this thing up. Or hey, I might ask you randomly, like, hey, can you, like, I had somebody reach out on LinkedIn and wanted to connect, and I told my person I couldn't put in my CRM at the moment, so took a screenshot, put this person in our CRM, put them in this pipeline, and she did it for me. That way I wouldn't forget about it, but just little things like that. And that's not her role to do that. So that's why I suggest to people as well, like, hey, have a core function, and then they can do some other things. They're not gonna be great at it.
Yeah.
Me putting a contact in might take 2 minutes. It can take them 5 minutes, but that's okay because it still got done. Absolutely. So the other side, kind of the other side of that scaling that I was thinking about was the fact that, like, my wife, for instance, still works with corporate America, right? And I have a lot of clients that are considered, to be corporate, corporate structure. And so when you think about some of their day-to-day activities and how they function, typically their 40-hour week, you find in almost every case that you can do everything that's being done functionally with that one individual in about 20 or 25 hours, right? About half the time.
Right.
And most people are in disbelief.
Sometimes less than half
sometimes
the time.
even less. And so it's like so many people are in disbelief, but when you have a VA that's really dialed in, especially to that task or that skill set, and they're just like, okay, all I have to do is X, Y, Z. It blows my mind. One thing I'll just share, and maybe I shouldn't give away any of my secrets because it allows me to upsell as well. But I really like to serve, and I want people to understand that, like, to have a VA, to be able to outsource some of the stuff, it's really just going to improve their life, their business, and holistically keep that other client that they're serving for a much longer period of time, right?
Yeah.
So one of the things that I notice is, like, I build funnels as well, and I try to not build websites, but at the Branding Collaborative as a whole, we build marketing campaigns and pieces around that. And the one task is like, okay, you think about a funnel or a landing page in general. Have you ever built one yourself? Have you ever built a landing page or a website or a funnel or anything? It takes forever.
Yeah.
Number one, I'm a perfectionist.
Oh,
so if you're going to put me there, it's like me painting a room, and it's going to take me, 2 days to paint a room, right?
Yeah.
Because I'm looking at every little, well, that's what it's like building a funnel, but you give it to a VA that's qualified to do that. And oh my goodness, I remember sending out 2 projects. I needed 3 landing pages, made immediately for this big, huge event I was doing. And when they got back to me and they said, here's the finished product, make any tweaks. I made the tweaks, I sent it back. And then all of a sudden they billed me for like 6 hours.
Yeah.
And my mind was blown because I was like, oh my goodness, I would have still been sitting here trying to figure out how to get this project
And you have
launched.
other stuff to do, your
Absolutely,
family,
absolutely. So I think
things.
that, like, the value exchange and the reasons why are huge. Right?
Yeah. Oh yeah, and the other side of that too that I like to tell people about is that now you could be more strategic on that. If you were in the weeds doing that funnel, you would have spent one all the time sitting there trying to make that funnel perfect.
Yes.
But there's probably things that you would have missed strategically because like, oh, maybe if we switch this order, it'd be better. But because you were in the weeds, you're like, oh no, this order's perfect. But because somebody else did it, you weren't married to the layout. Absolutely. And you can say, no, we need to put this up here, kind of top of fold kind of thing, situation. Yeah. And now you're able to look at it more strategically because somebody else is doing that. And of course, the time savings, money savings. I mean, there's so many things, but that's another thing I love about having a VA.
Yeah. I got to a point where I actually could focus entirely on kind of that high ticket and, the holistic client that I'm doing a lot of things for. And the way I was able to do that was allowing, VAs and outsourcing to help me build my systems, maintaining those systems, of course. Do some of the discovery as well. I think you mentioned it before we even kind of went live into this, in the fact that when it comes to discovery, I can spend so much time trying to figure out if someone's qualified to do business with me, which pulls me away from other things.
Yeah.
So I can actually put that, in people can automate that. They can do some of the discovery, some of the responders, maybe even some of the questionnaires or the things from the form. Let them do that. And then people that actually hit the tier that I feel satisfied with, then I can focus all my time in calling that client and pre-qualifying them to that next level. Basically saying, I know where you're at currently, you're the type of person that I want to do business with, and if I can help you close that gap, can we move forward? Yeah. And now, I see that increase in business. So, yeah.
And actually, speaking of calling, speaking of doing the things what a business owner wants to do, I'm sure you get all the time about, well, they're not going to sound like me. I'm Billy Bob the redneck, and I'm going to have, I know you're using US-based people, but if you're using somebody from overseas, they're not going to sound like a guy from, the deep South and stuff like that. So how do you go about helping that, and how does it still come across as somebody that's on their team, so to speak, even though they're not technically on their team?
So I actually agree on the answering side, and I'm all in on US-based. I have had people for years trying to sell me to offset that, and I'm not okay with offsetting that, and especially just living in the South, but honestly, I think all 50 states really. I like a US-based agent, but I also see the need for VAs that we have VAs in all over the world, and a lot of them are in the Philippines, but we also have Brazil. We have one guy that travels the world and it doesn't even matter where he is, Portugal, Poland, wherever, and he just picks up the phone and he's doing any job that he needs to do, and he gets it done, so it doesn't matter to me. But on the actual answer side, I think it does make a big difference. And we do take work all the time from companies that are hiring the phone piece overseas. But on any of the other types of tasks where it's non-phone related, that's what I say, non-phone time. That would be social media and things like that. We have talent all over because we hire entry level to people with an MBA to developers, coders, and basically if we take on a project and we don't have the talent, we just, go find it. And I think that that's what the business owners are trying to do, is go find the talent that they don't have. And so the version where it's just one VA, I see that there are pros about having one VA, and one would be they get to know your company really well. And so they can be, that person just like a lady at a desk, and that is her job, as long as the owner takes her. But you guys know I'm all about the agency model.
Yeah.
I'm about the one-stop solution for everything that you need within your company whenever it comes to office and sales and marketing. We didn't start that way though. We started out as just appointment setting within my own, service company. And then after, keeping people busy, that's how the VA unfolded. And we've done VA so many different ways. When we started it because we were keeping our clients really busy, and then one of our clients needed someone to answer the phone. And so I'm sitting here thinking, we did have the time and stuff like that, but that's how we got into it. And in the beginning, because this was before cloud-based software, there was no cloud-based software back in the day, and so it was printed to-do list. and then and have your client, fill it out and give you your daily task roles. And then every day as a VA, we would write down handwritten, like, this is what else we need to add to the list, scan it. And there were so many problems wrong with the way that we started out in the VA, because also part of our procedure was, before you left the office, you had to scan and fax over all of those 100 pages.
Yeah.
And you know how scanners don't work all the time?
Mm-hmm.
What a horrible idea. And so then they would get mad, because when we're doing that, we're leaving the office. And so you couldn't call in and ask any questions or anything like that. And so that's when I knew software had to be a big part of what we do in VidSlot. And that's how I became a software creator, is because software is expensive, and especially VA answering service type software, and also along with your clients are using whatever software they're using. I don't know how many softwares that you guys use, but have you ever counted them?
Oh, yeah. So if I go back 5 years ago, I was probably using 11, 12 physical pieces of software, right? I have scaled it down to 4 now. It's amazing. It's amazing.
You use 4 softwares and that's it?
Yes. Now obviously if I take Google, as kind of an umbrella and a whole, I'm using, multiple things within that. Yeah. But I've been able to really scale down, but it's taken a lot of work to do that. Now in your world, a lot of times, and for both of you, you're also meeting the client where they're at, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So you have one that does it this way, one uses Trello boards, one uses Google Drive, one uses Excel spreadsheets, one uses a bar napkin, right? And so you're kind of, catering to all of that. And I do find that as well. I try as much as possible though to push them into 1 or 2 just kind of major brands. Not that we're dropping brands on this, it may not even make the podcast, but Go High Level was just a perfect solution, because there's so many things that you can do within that one platform. Right? And so I'm starting to eliminate, even with my clients, I'm like, you don't need that subscription, you don't need that, you don't need another funnel builder, you don't
all one spot, all analytics, all reporting.
At one point in time, I think I had 5 different pieces of software that all built funnels and websites and landing pages, and I'm like, what am I doing here, right? And it's the same thing with the people, even with a calendar. Calendar is probably one of the most useful tools that exists to mankind.
And some still don't have it.
Still don't have it.
And there's the free version.
Yeah, exactly. But there's so many versions, right? It's so many, Book Me, there's Calendly, it just goes on and on. Obviously Outlook-based things, Google-based, or Gmail-based. And so, if you can even narrow that down to 1, or 2 major platforms, it just makes communication in everyone's life just a little bit easier, right? But so I love that. The other thing that made me think about this was the fact of, not as just being able to scale for our client, but for ourselves as well. Because you both have mentioned this. When in our own business, right, you talk about VA services. You yourself, and for you in software and other things, you saw a need in your own business before you started to even promote that service to your clients. So do you have something you'd like to share, kind of how that journey kind of unfolded as well?
Yeah, really in a nutshell for me, it was that I wanted to actually make my content better. So I was doing a podcast, doing the social media, but I was missing posting on social media. I was, the podcast was just clip the beginning and end. Maybe if I knew there was a big mess up in the middle, I'd go clip that out. But other than that, it was just all right, just clip it, post it. And then, oh crap, I forgot to post again. And so I hired somebody to help take care of posting on social media and my podcast. And then it grew into the podcast was taking up too much time, so I needed a social media manager. And then I ended up having some friends reach out asking for help, because now I had 2 VAs and everything. And so that's really, in a nutshell, how that all started.
And because they were seeing you all over social media.
Exactly.
And same thing for you, right, April? Before you started to sell software systems and packages that helped others, you saw the gap in your own business and bringing all that together and organizing things, et cetera, right?
Yeah, I did. So the way it like started is from cold calling in my home office. And then, BidSlot had great success cold calling, really growing our commercial kitchen hood cleaning company. And other people were seeing that were in the industry, or we were in the hood cleaning. And they were like, can you do this for me? So while I was raising my kids and they were even smaller, the answer was no. But as they got older, I started thinking, I can do this. Josh is actually the one that came up with the name VidSlot. He created the whole entire first set of packages and stuff like that. And then he gave it to me and said, I think you'd be good at this. And so he's always been able to, he knows more about me than I know about me, really. But anyways, so that's kind of how it started. And then within 6 months, I hired my first 5 employees, bought the office building that I'm in now. And then because we were keeping everyone so busy, we started the answering service. And then we realized we can do more than answer the phone. So we started doing all of these tasks. Now I'm putting together really big proposals because we've been able to become like a one-stop shop, full solution, and it's managed by me. And then I have other managers, and things like that.
And other collaborative partners that you can lean
like
on,
you and
where
Philip
you can
John
package
and
these
Maggie
things. And by the way, we could talk forever about collaboration as a whole. But I believe that again is just another definition of using VA services, answer services, in the fact that when you collaborate with others, when you build this team, you yourself aren't taking on that financial burden, of like that old school, because I used to have those businesses, right? 10, 15 employees in the office that, you depended on. But also when times were slow, you also felt responsible to keep them on payroll,
it's
right?
Like, oh dear Lord, please help me. And that's growth is scary.
It is.
While it's like so amazing and you can do it, but it's hard. It's challenging. I've been in like 3 to 4 different spots in my company where I brought on a large number of clients at one time. I really made some people mad, with the way that I ran it. But then I've been able to learn from all of that and really dial it in.
Like there's always a lesson. There's always a lesson in it.
There's a big lesson sometimes, and it stinks bad whenever it's happening.
Of course it does when you're in the midst of it.
But it happens to everyone. I know that a lot of the companies, like that we work with, the home service companies, when summer hits, they're so straight to the wall. Everything matters because they have a winter. January, February, March is gravely slow for these people. And so anyways,
One of the reasons why I asked both of you though are about that, that question about what need did you have, and then you filled it, and then you turned that into a product and service to help others. And really the whole model behind any of that is because there was 2 things that happened, right? You had an emotional actually transformation, like, to where you're like, ooh, I felt that burden's gone now. I miss social media. I miss editing videos. I do this, I do that. I'm missing episodes. And now I send that off. So now you're going, wow, I don't have that anymore. So one, it does that, right? That's the first reaction, I think, with outsourcing and building a team. The first one is that emotional, like, I feel like I just had a little weight taken off me. And then 2, you start realizing how to close the gap in the free time that you have now. And so now it's like, maybe now I have time to write that book. Maybe I have time to start a podcast. Maybe I have time now to provide, that the ultimate package that I've always wanted to present to my clients, but I never had time to put it together.
One of the first things that comes to mind is Netflix and chill.
Yes.
Like just take a little time to yourself. Put yourself
that's
at the top of the
sure.
list for once when you get some of this office stuff figured out. It's really important. And I think that as, Americans, we just have such a drive to always go. And it is interesting. And I know you're a world traveler, and you literally have just recently been to London, Italy, like a ton of other places. And so they don't quite have the drive we do now, do they? They do.
But what they understand is, they work hard. It's ingrained in culture. But they also do understand like what it's like to to take 2 months off, and spend
and
time
take
with
that nap
family
every
and whatever it
afternoon
may
or
be.
something.
Yeah, absolutely, right. They're kind of life Sabbath, if you will,
Yeah.
over life and business.
I always say it's more like they work to live, we live to work.
Yeah, that's absolutely right.
And we don't
it's-
give ourselves enough,
Yeah.
we're not putting a lot away for retirement,
Yeah.
So that we're,
We don't give
that,
ourselves
like,
enough grace,
Not
actually,
at all.
just to
And
feel
you
like-
get like 10 years
Yeah.
after you're like gonna go ahead and quit your job to live.
Yeah.
That's the thing,
Yeah.
like
The
it's
kicker,
all about
literally.
time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Everything we're doing
I always
is
love
about
that.
time.
I always love that because one of the questions I always ask is like, so why did you start this business, right? And usually when you really peel back the layers, everyone says to have more time, to spend more time with family. I love my children. I want to leave a legacy. I want to be able to help more in the community, like whatever that is. And then at the end of the day, you're like, so how many of those things are you actually doing on a weekly basis? And they're like, well, I'm not. I'm trying to get to that level where,
trying to get
and I'm
there.
like, that should be part of your core mission weekly. Like, if to work hard is to be able to serve and help others, and to have maybe even some of the Netflix and chill time or whatever, then are you not integrating that into your schedule now?
Yeah.
And that makes it all worthwhile.
Like,
So-
what do you really enjoy doing?
Yeah.
Some people forget after they get married and start having kids and then start a business on top of it. It's a lot. And so,
It's a lot. So that in itself, I don't know how much more time we have today, but I think that in itself is really something to anchor this conversation to, even for some future events and conversations, is the fact that, why are you wanting more time to free up your schedule so that you can have more impact in whether it's life, family, time with a wife, time looking for a wife, like whatever that may be, but freeing up that time. And that is the core element. The core element is, if I can build strategic partnerships, if I can build collaborations, if I can outsource with VAs, if I can outsource with call centers, then I have more time and freedom to do the things that really, at the end of the day,
That matter to you.
that I tell myself, this is why I'm doing it.
Yeah.
But most of us don't ever do it, right?
But it's not really a priority, just like going to the gym. I want to go to the gym, but I never set time aside. Well, it's not a priority for you.
Yeah.
So that's essentially what we're saying about our family. The business is my priority.
Yes.
I'm going to try and make time later for you.
Yeah.
Like, you have to set that up now.
You do.
And I get asked that question a lot. How do you manage it all? Because I've decided I want to do X, Y, Z.
Yes.
And so I do that. And yeah, sure, some things don't go as quickly as I would like for them to go.
Yeah.
But these other things that are more of a priority happen because
Absolutely.
I've made them happen.
Yeah,
Made
absolutely.
sure.
And at the end of the day, it's when you're working hard, but you're still also fulfilling your ultimate goal, like that, the end in mind. If you're doing little pieces of that along the way, then you feel fulfilled to wake up every day and not even call it a job anymore. Like, this is my mission in serving
oh
others.
yeah.
So anyways.
I mean, I definitely wake up every day and I cannot wait to
Yeah.
get to the office and do all of the bit slot stuff, all the fun stuff that we do.
Yeah.
Exactly.